Okay, so I want to show you a scenario that I really like using Schluter for, and that is for some custom showers that don't always have a specific size in mind. So in this particular shower, we're roughly 38.25 by 39 inches. So that's kind of an oddball size shower. And that's where the Schluter really comes in handy, because you can cut it down the size to fit. And even if it doesn't fit perfectly, you can still fudge the surrounding area of it. So I'll show you what I got here. We have a 38 by 38 inch shower pan. And you can see that there's a lot of gap on either side. So there's a little bit of unsquareness. We have about a 1/2 inch over here, 1/2 inch there. But everything else, and even here, we have about a 3/4 of an inch from our outside floor. Not a big deal when it comes to Schluter, because we're going to be able to do the membranes over top of it, and really we'll be able to fill all of this with thin set. Okay, so you first want to just wipe down the substrate with a damp sponge, and this just gets the dust off of it, but also keeps that thin set from zapping the moisture directly out of the thin set, especially on OSB. So we're using Schluter's All Set, and then we're going to use a 1/4 by 3/8 inch square notch trowel. And you want to make sure that you have it at a fairly loose consistency on the thin set. So just take the back side of the trowel and burn it into the thin set. And this will allow you to get some good coverage and better trowel lines. And I might actually kind of shrink up the gap here in the front a little bit. So I basically all the way around the edge, I have about a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch gap all the way around. So you just want to make sure you embed this well. Okay. All right, and as far as the drain, we're going to go ahead and install that. Now, I definitely agree with the towel coach that the FloFX drains are much, much nicer than the Schluter drains. And I'll show you a couple of reasons why. So the Schluter drain is all smooth all around the bottom. And the drain assembly is a little bit cumbersome to get to the right adjustment on the tile layer. Not terrible, but the big thing that I think is a big improvement with the FloFX drain is the way it has the waffles on the back here. So this really gets well embedded into the thin set and has a better bond to the actual pan. The other thing that's nice about this is the drain cover. So this drain cover is definitely superior as well, because this is basically kind of similar to the Schluter. Kind of similar to the Schluter drain, where you have one receiver and this adjusts to your tile layer. But what's better about it is that all these grooves really key into the thin set, and then you see all these little grooves here. These are basically little weep holes for the water to go through. So definitely a more superior type of drain assembly and easier to work with. And really the construction of this is much thicker. This is always somewhat flexible, but yeah, definitely a really good system that they came out with. So what we're going to do for the drain is already glued in. So what we're going to do is measure down to our foam receiver. So we got 3 3/4. So that's what we need to cut the pipe down in order to get this to sit at the right location. So what we're going to use is a inside pipe cutter. And then, so I said, what did I say, 3 3/4? Well, that's 2 3/4. Might as well just go ahead and practice, because this is only 2 3/4 to here, so we're going to have to cut it again. So we'll just cut some of this down and then mark it. Okay, so we'll measure this again. Give ourselves a second chance here. So 2 inches. Take a look on the back side. Yeah, 2 inches. All right, so we just want to mark basically on our inside pipe cutter where we want to cut down to. So I'm just going to reference that when I'm cutting. Just make sure you deburr some of this, or just get some of the anything that's kind of flaring out on the pipe. Again, just double check anything should fit before you go ahead and glue it. So that's nice and even with it, so we'll be good there. So get some thin set. Basically fill this entire back waffle here. Okay, so they'll be nice and bonded. And we'll go ahead and see if we want to invent a better primer thing. That'd be okay. Let me just set that right in place. Hold that until the glue sets. And just like the regular Schluter drain, you put your fleece donut over top of this. Probably the most important part of this fleece is that it really bonds well to the fleece on top of your drain. So make sure that everything's a nice tight fit right against the top of that drain. Okay, cool, awesome. Okay, so just want to pre-cut your curdy band. So you can just easily just fill in the base with a thin set. And typically I would say anything that is within an inch, you can do this with thin set. If you get beyond that, you might want to use a dry pack mud. But thin set can go 3/4 of an inch pretty easily. So these are the Schluter curdy corners. Makes it a little bit easier to get a nice waterproof seam in the corner. That'll work. So I'll get this one and then we'll do those other corners. All right, so this seam right here, probably one of the most important seams to the entire system, and that is to make sure that you have flashing or have that waterproof membrane going over top of the pan and spanning this area. So we're gonna first fill in that space that we have in the pan. Like I said, it's really not a big deal, just as long as you pack it well with thin set. And then you can see that my pan is actually, after we put the rock board here, we're about 1/4 inch higher than the pan. I actually think that's a really good thing. And if you can accomplish that, that is a good, it just helps with the water flow further in there, and you can always span the tile. And this is all, we're also going to span a little bit of the Curdy membrane here to offset that a little bit.